Okay, good evening members. Welcome to this Audit Committee meeting. I'm going to move to item 1. Do we have any apologies for absence or any substitutions? I've been made aware of one apology for absence from Councillor Ruth Strong. I think everyone else is here from by the looks of it. Okay. Item 2 is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 10th of December 2024. I'm happy to move them from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hunt? Oh, Councillor Greensmith? Yeah, oh, thank you. Okay. All those in favour of accepting the minutes as a true and accurate record? Thank you very much. Item 3, do we have any declarations of interest? No indications of any. Thank you, members. Item 4, so we've now got the Mazars External Auditors Annual Report and Audit Strategy Completion Report for the year ended the 31st of March 2024. Tina, I think you're going to start us off. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So it is a requirement that Council's financial statements are audited on an annual basis, and that in addition the auditors undertake all work necessary to support their conclusion on value for money. Mazars are our external auditors and they are appointed to audit our financial statements in accordance with international finance accounting standards, and under normal circumstances to form and express an opinion on whether the financial statements present a true and fair view of the Council's financial position and standing for the year in question. The year we're talking about today is 2023-24. I'm now going to pass you on to our external auditors representative, which is Jen. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. So we are presenting 2 reports to you today. We have our Auditor's Annual Report, which contains our commentary on the Council's arrangements for securing value for money. And we also have our Combined Audit Strategy Memorandum and Audit Completion Report. These are both for the year ended March 2024. So if I start with the Audit Strategy Memorandum and Audit Completion Report, so this is very similar to the report that was presented to you in December it was combined for 21-22 and 22-23. We have not been able to complete the necessary work to express an opinion on the financial statements, so we will be issuing a disclaimer of opinion. This is a common situation for hundreds of councils around the country. Gedling has a slightly particular situation in that, in addition to being part of those councils that are backstopped, it was subject to a fraud in the year 2022, which investigations were ongoing into the 23-24 year. So because of these 2 reasons, we've not been able to express an opinion. If I then go on to the Auditor's Annual Report, so as I said, that contains our commentary on the Council's arrangements for securing value for money. We have 3 reporting criteria for this, which are financial sustainability, governance, and what we call the 3 E's, which are securing economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So for improving economy, efficiency and effectiveness, we have not found any indications of significant weaknesses in arrangements. Similarly, for financial sustainability, we have not found any indication of a significant weakness in arrangements. The arrangements are as we would expect to find at a council such as Gedling. We have conducted full work on value for money. The backstop did not affect our work at all. We still have the same responsibilities in respect to the NAO for completing our value for money work. However, under the governance reporting criteria, we have had to bring forward the significant weakness in arrangements which was previously reported to you in our reports for 21-22 and 22-23. This is not because we have discovered anything additional or indeed that we have been able to conclude on governance arrangements in general. It is because we have not been able to conclude that the significant weakness in arrangements does not exist in the 23-24 year. And we've not been able to conclude because, firstly, there are internal audit reports from BDO that came out during the 23-24 year that relate to the fraud and relate to certain weaknesses in controls that were identified. And secondly, even if that were not the case, since the backstop date of the 13th of December for all years from 22-23 and before, we simply have not had time to conclude for the 23-24 year that those arrangements are in place. We have, however, even though we have not been able to conclude on the audit and we are giving a disclaimer of opinion, we have conducted certain other additional work on the main financial statements audit, which has included engaging our internal forensics teams, our IT auditors, having meetings with the council externally and also internally so that we can agree on scoping the procedures that we're going to carry out to help us rebuild assurance going forward into 24-25. I'm happy to take any questions any of you might have.
At this point, do you members have any comments or questions? Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Chair. From what you've said, is this what you've kind of well, you're not alluded to, you've put it in black and white. Are you saying that the value for money arrangements under governance, I think you said there's a significant weakness in the governance arrangements still. Is that what you're telling us now? And that's because why is that still happening? I mean, I don't want to put words into your mouth, so maybe you can explain that to us.
So can I just clarify your question? Is it why we have brought forward this recommendation into the 23-24 year? Is that your question?
No, my question is, in your conclusion under the governance, it says there's still a significant weakness in the governance arrangement. So why is there still a weakness? Are you saying that we've not put that right yet from the fraud, or are you saying it's something different?
It is to do with the fraud, that's first thing to say. Secondly, we have simply not been able to conclude that significant weakness in arrangements can be cleared. It's going to be a significant piece of work. It's a very particular situation that Gedling's in. So that is why we're bringing it forward. And also, there are certain internal audit reports and ongoing work that was happening within the 23-24 year. So for those two reasons, we have to conclude we cannot conclude that those significant weaknesses no longer exist in the year ended 31st of March 2024.
Okay, sorry to press you, but I think this is quite important. So are you saying you've not been able to conclude that everything's okay, or are you saying there are still weaknesses? It's slightly different, and I hope you understand why it's important to know that.
I do understand. We're saying both, but I would go with the former, in that this is something we identified in a previous year and we're bringing forward. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Any other comments or questions from members? No. I just wanted to ask about the audit of the 2024-2025 accounts. When are you intending to start them? And is there a possibility that you'll be applying another backstop?
A very good question. So our intention for 24-25 is to conduct a full audit. However, this does not mean that we will not end up with another disclaimer of opinion. So we will be starting, to answer the second part of your question, we will be starting the backstop dates. We need to sign off this opinion before Friday. So the backstop date for 2024 is 28th of February 2025. And as soon as that is done, we can focus on our planning work and interim work for years going forward. In effect, it has already started because we've already engaged our forensics teams, our IT auditors, and been having those conversations. So, but we will be coming on site. We'll be doing a full audit as was always the case in the past. But that does not mean, because of the problem that we're going to have with opening balances, it does not mean that we will not end up with a disclaimer of opinion. In fact, it's something that we just can't really be sure of at the moment because we're waiting for guidance from above on how we will rebuild assurance and how we can get eventually to a clean opinion. Does that answer your question?
Are there any other comments or questions from there? No? Is there anything more to cover? There isn't, is there? We've done both reports in one there, haven't we? Okay, so I think what we'll do then, we'll move to the recommendations of item 4, and that is I'll read out the recommendations for the people that are at home or anyone that's watching online. I just always think that's fair. So the recommendation is that members note the Mazars external audit report for 2023-24 and refer the report to full council for information. And number 2, members note the audit strategy and completion report for 2023-24 and refer to full council for information. I'm happy to move those recommendations from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hunt, thank you. All those in favour to accept the recommendations? Yeah, that's carried, thank you. We'll now move on then to item 5, and that is to seek approval of the Council's annual governance statement and the statement of accounts for 2023-24. And I'll ask Tina to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So as the Chair did say, this report is about some approvals here. So what we're looking for is approval of the annual governance statement for 23-24. Now, we brought this to you back in December, just as a note piece for you to have a look at and to note. Since that time, there hasn't been any significant changes to that, just a little bit of wording. So it is as you have seen it before. The audit regulations do actually require the council to conduct a review of its effectiveness of the systems of internal control and to prepare the annual governance statement. The annual governance statement for 23-24 is attached at Appendix 1 of your pack, and it accompanies the statement of accounts, which is attached at Appendix 2, starts on page 104 of your packs. The regulations require that the annual governance statement must be approved in advance of the approval of the statement of accounts, and accordingly, the annual governance statement will be signed by the leader of the council and the chief executive following its approval at this meeting. So as I said, the draft annual governance statement was presented to you all on the 10th of December last year. The regulations also require that the responsible financial officer sign and date the council statement of accounts by the 31st of May 2025 and certify that the statements they should have been signed by the 31st of May 2024. However, the backstop kicked in and we wasn't able to do this. And because of the fraud, it was delayed for a considerable time. The annual statement of accounts is attached at Appendix 2. Now, this is quite a backward look because we are almost nearing the end of the year 24-25. So this statement is almost a year old. So I'm not going to go through it in great detail. There is, as you go through, there'll be the narrative statement, which kind of like goes through all the major parts of the statement, goes through what we presented at Outturn, which was brought to Cabinet in July of last year and was approved at full council. So we were looking at an underspend on the general fund balance of about £100,000 for Outturn. It also sets out the capital Outturn position and the collection fund, which is around the collection of council tax and NDR into the council. Some things to note that in the balance sheet, the net worth of assets kind of like decreased from 26.3 million from the 1st of April 22-23 to 23.3 million as at the 31st of March 2024. This just is mainly due to depreciation of assets and assets coming off the balance sheet, so nothing really to be concerned at there. The pension deficit decreased by 5.6 million to 4.5 million during 23-24. Another significant increase. It increased massively as well the previous year. There's a number of reasons for those increases, and if anybody wants to ask me about those, please feel free. There were some movements on debtors and creditors. The value of short-term creditors decreased by 3.6 million, and the value of short-term debtors increased by 1.3 million. Doesn't really tell you a great deal. That's just end-of-year movements on debtors and creditors, and it all depends what's sitting in your accounts at that point in the year. It doesn't really have any impact on our ability to collect debts as they fall due, and we do have due process to ensure that we do collect debts that are outstanding. It is just a year-end movement. Earmarked reserves were quite healthy as at the 31st of March 2024, which sitting at 8.6 million, which was an increase of just short of 2.5 million. This is mainly due to grants that we had received and hadn't spent, so have gone into earmark reserves for future use. There was no significant issues arising in 23-24. There was a few elements left of the fraud, and I think to answer Councillor Bestwick's question earlier, the fraud was actually identified in July 2022. So all the work that was being undertaken from it being identified was quite significant. We had internal auditors in doing a really significant piece of work for us, and that work carried on into 23-24 and wasn't concluded until the latter part of 23-24, which is why that there is those assurances that are not being able to be met. And that's really it for the statement of accounts. As I say, it is almost a year old. I'm quite happy to take any questions if anybody's got any questions on any particular aspects of the statement. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from members? Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say how well I thought that we'd done, really, and that on page 117 of the summary narrative, it says that financial and non-financial position remains robust, despite the extent of the challenges faced, maintaining levels of reserve and balances which will provide financial resilience for 24-25. But there are still significant challenges in the medium term due to the cost of living crisis. When I look at what's happened, particularly in the Communities Department, the Place Department, there have been some significant achievements. 4 jobs fairs with 1,000 attendees, 600 children have achieved their 25-metre badge, which I think is absolutely fantastic, 4,000 extra people learning how to swim, Armed Forces' leisure cards, more than 200 empty houses returned to use, refurbishment of Lamley Lane. It goes on and on, 887 rented homes with health and safety hazards falling below the minimum standard have been remediated. So given the inflationary pressures that we've been dealing with, I think the additional work and the aim of serving people and improving lives has been met. So I just wanted to congratulate the council really in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Are there any other questions or comments from members? Councillor Greensmith.
I've noticed that there's the HMRC VAT reclaim of just over 3.5 million. Is that to do with the swimming? I've got something in my head about that, but I'm not 100% certain. Can we just have some clarification on that?
Yes, that was a change in legislation for sporting facilities that used to be zero rated for memberships, and they're actually now non-business. So what that meant was that the council, this was a piece of work that had been going on a number of years, and it was highlighted by a number of councils. Some years ago now, I can't even remember how long ago, but the council had an option whether it was going to put in a claim dating back a number of years, which it did. Because it put in a claim, you can put in a claim every 4 years to protect your claim, and the council have done that right up until 23-24 when the legislation was changed. So what the council was able to do was claim back all the VAT that it had paid over to HMRC on its membership fees for a number of years, which came to but 3.5 million. So that's what that VAT refund represents.
Okay. I was just going to ask a question about the annual statement of accounts report. I noticed that, I mean, this may have been asked in the past, but just in relation to collection rates for business rates, which was, it said in the report was 97.9%, slightly below the target of 98.9. I was just wondering what we do to address that shortfall and if it makes much of a difference, and does that compare much different to previous years, or do we usually meet that target in general?
Thank you, Chair. So we do tend to have a very similar collection rate year on year. It does fluctuate, and often that does fluctuate because of the economy and what people's personal situations are. A lot of the collection rate is council tax. In 23-24, we did have cost of living crisis. We had the back end of COVID. Still a lot of things that people were suffering from. So it probably meant that collection rates did go down a little bit. However, the movement was quite minimal, so wouldn't have had a massive impact on how much council tax we collected. Any movements that we do actually have the bad debt provision, which is an allowance. It's an amount of money that we put aside to make sure that we are covered for those debts that we are likely not to collect.
Thank you. And just to come back off I think you mentioned the pension liability in your update, and I was just wondering, how does this position regarding the decrease of the liability, how does this position the council regarding future pension obligations? Can you say, or can't you say?
It's a bit difficult to say, really. It's the actuaries who determine kind of like what that pension liability is going to be. Nottinghamshire County Council operate our pension for us. The deficit over the number of years is due to quite a lot of factors. There've obviously been a big push by the association to try and get the deficits down. There's been a lot of press about it over the past number of years. It's come down for various number of factors. First of all, there's more members who are in the local government pension scheme overall. There's been an increase in assets. We've had a couple of years of really high interest rates. So the interest on investments have been a lot more significant than they have in previous years. Unfortunately, the couple of years around this statement of accounts, there was higher mortality rates than usual. A lot of that due to COVID, which has affected the deficit. There was the McLeod remedy, and also that's members are actually paying higher contributions. The government made a push so that members are paying 100% contributions now. So all of that has had an impact in reducing that deficit. That just wouldn't be just Gedling, that will be across the whole of the local government pension association.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Just following on from that on pensions, there's been some talk from government about merging some of the local government pension schemes into regional, so all the East Midlands ones would be merged, for example. Could that affect our pension liability if one of the funds that, if that happened, and one of the funds that's merged, for example, is in deficit? Or one is very much in surplus? Could that affect our pension liabilities?
It could do, yes. Any merger of pension schemes would likely affect deficits across the board, really. It's really difficult to say until those kind of things are firmed up. So I wouldn't be able to answer that. I mean, it's something that we could ask our actuary if they have a view on that, if it's something that you'd like me to ask from our pension, from the County Council.
Yes, please. I mean, just it doesn't need to be go into great depth, just sort of a headline opinion, I suppose.
Yeah, I will ask the question and get something to you.
I think that's really relevant, actually, considering the discussions around local government reorganisation as well and stuff like that. So, thank you for that, Councillor Hughes. I think that's all my questions. Is anything else from members, or are we okay to move on? Okay, we'll move on then. Are we happy to? There's no questions about the. On item 4, there's no questions about any of the other recommendations, because what I will do is move them all in one go if there's no other comments or questions. Okay, I'll move items, the recommendations 1 to 4 from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hunt, thank you very much. All those in favour of accepting the recommendations? Yeah, that's carried. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. So there was nothing, I haven't been made aware of anything urgent. So thank you very much for attending this evening, members. And that's the end of the meeting.